China. In 1509, during the Ming Dynasty, a dejected court official returned to his hometown in Suzhou. His name was Wang Shanchen. Wang retired from his government post and purchased a plot of land in Suzhou, and over the following 16 years spent his life savings constructing a garden. Wang's devotion and expense to this sanctuary is evident in the winding corridors, the sparkling lakes, and magnificent pavilions. Built at the beginning of the 16th century, the humble administrator's garden covers an area of about 4,100 square meters. It is the largest garden among many of Suzhou's famous gardens. Located in eastern China, Suzhou is a time-honored city boasting 2,500 years of history. Construction of private gardens in Suzhou began during the 2nd and 3rd century. During its peak period from the 16th to the 18th century, the number of gardens grew beyond 500, and a unique way of constructing gardens was formed. Saying goes, as there is paradise in heaven, there is Suzhou and Hangzhou on earth. If Suzhou was paradise on earth, then these gardens were its Eden. What did the humble administrator's garden mean to Wang Shanchen, and what would become of his garden over the next 400 years? In 1404, construction on the Forbidden City began. It was to become the largest palace complex of all time. In that same year, Zheng He began his naval expeditions to the Western Oceans. Chinese construction skills and modes of transportation became highly developed. However, Wang's garden took 16 years to complete. To obtain the finest construction materials for his garden, Wang traveled to many places, spent all of his savings, and went to great length to acquire them. Stones from Tai Lake, wood from the Chengbai Mountains, and various antiques and furniture were transported to Suzhou, which was time-consuming and costly, proving this garden was extremely important for him. In the following 400 years, many scholars and officials fought over control of this rare and elegant garden. The little flying rainbow, the only gallery bridge in this garden, rises above the calm and serene waters. Surrounded by water on 3 sides, the Jianshan Pavilion is where its owner and his friends would read and write poems. They would wander among the rocks, appreciating the beauty of the garden, or drank wine in stone chambers in the garden, telling stories to each other. They cherished each moment. They even put a guqin atop the Suzhou marble boat, reminiscing and expressing their deepest feelings. The long corridors coil and wind like waves. As one walks along this path, the view changes at each turn. It is considered by many to be a masterpiece in Chinese corridor design. Through the moonlight stone gate lies the West Garden. The garden has several small courtyards. This is a typical trait of Suzhou's numerous gardens. Yuanyang Hall, the West Garden's main structure, is elegant and opulent. On its 4 walls are diamond-shaped blue and white glass panes. Centuries ago, this was where the owners of this garden often listened to Kung Fu opera. Comparing the humble administrator's garden's layout with that of the Imperial gardens in the Forbidden City, there are some disparities. Located in the North Palace, the Imperial Garden is huge, relying heavily on symmetry. The buildings are built very closely together. In the humble administrator's garden, the buildings are more distant and asymmetrical. Some pavilions are even built among the hills and lakes. Nature's random beauty is emphasized. This seemingly casual layout was designed expressly for this garden. In China, gardens are considered three-dimensional paintings. Wang's colleague, Wen Jiangming, was invited to participate in the design process for this garden. Wen, a renowned Ming Dynasty painter, based his design heavily on his painting experience and standards of aesthetics. Why did Wang, a well-educated official, choose to retire to build this sanctuary at this time? According to the Ming Dynasty's historic records, the imperial government was corrupt, its power monopolized by eunuchs. When it came time for his promotion, Wang was overlooked. Dejected, Wang chose to retire and focus on his personal life. He told Wen of his plans for retirement and subsequent return to his hometown. Wang believed only his friend Wen could understand his principle for planning the garden to conform to natural landscapes as he expressed his feelings in the construction of the garden. Many officials in those days chose to retire when they were still young, devoting their lives to poems, paintings, and operas. The name, the humble administrator's garden, tells of Wang's professional feelings of helplessness, as well as his self-deprecation. He repressed his disappointment and frustration with politics and chose to build this picturesque garden in Suzhou instead. There he spent the rest of his life, comforting his troubled heart and seeking spiritual relief. Most garden owners in Suzhou shared Wang's experiences. After their rough and tumble tenures in imperial bureaucracy, they retired and lived in seclusion. What was Suzhou's appeal? For over 1,000 years, Suzhou has been a rich and bountiful city. Its favorable natural conditions and cultural heritage made Suzhou a crowded city. Ancient Chinese scholars and officials, removed from nature by way of political appointments, sought to return to nature. After settling down in Suzhou, many constructed private gardens, conforming to the beautiful natural landscapes. In the 12th century, during the Southern Song dynasty, Emperor Zhao Go chose neighboring Hangzhou as the new capital. Many nobles and merchants soon flocked to southern China, and Suzhou in particular, further energizing the art of Chinese garden construction. How were these layouts formed? Befitting the locals' descriptions, Suzhou gardens are delicate and colorful, as is the local culture, where Suzhou's girls are gentle and delicate. In stark contrast, royal construction is daunting and majestic, where men are bold and coarse, while women are dignified and graceful. These disparities stand in line with an old Chinese saying: people are influenced by their natural surroundings. The humble administrator's garden tells Wang's life story. Unfortunately, Wang passed away soon after construction was completed. His garden was soon under the possession of another family. In his early days, Wang Shanchen was too busy in political affairs to raise his son properly. Huang's son became a gambler, losing the garden on an ill-fated bet. The garden changed hands several times. Parts of it served as houses, other parts as temples. In 1950, the garden was finally restored to its original form. Today's modern gardens are modeled greatly after the asymmetrical design of historic gardens in Suzhou. People stressed the importance for gardens to conform to their natural surroundings. Ancient gardens built between the 16th and 18th century reflect the importance of the old Chinese principle to maintain harmony between man and nature. To this very day, this foundation is embodied in the humble administrator's garden and remains alive in the hearts and minds of many Chinese.